Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and in today's video I'm gonna show you how I built this exciting invoice extractor application powered by Gemini 1.5, a multimodal large language model capable to process text, audio and images. On this application I just need to feed an image to the model. In this case it will be invoices, but it could be any kind of images. And then you can start asking questions to the model. It could go from parsing all the information from the invoice or asking specific questions, such as the date of the invoice or the amount of the invoice. Let me quickly show you how this application works. In the sidebar, you can upload the invoice. Let's pick this one that I already saved here. And here we can see the invoice information. And now let's ask to the model to parse all the information from the invoice. And let's see the results. Let's click on the button Send. And now we'll be using Gemini 1.5 to identify all these fields that we can see here and provide an accurate response. As you can see, the model was really fast, and we can see a couple of information here. We can see the date that it was the 14th of 2023. Here we can see that the date is correct. The invoice number also looks correct. What about the total amount of the invoice? It was 702. All this information, we can see it here. And let's say that you don't want all this information, you just want to know how much was the insurance, which was 0. Let's ask this question now. How much was covered by the insurance? And now let's ask this specific question. Let's click on the button Send. And here we can see that the amount was 0, which is correct. So you can see that this application is working as expected. Now let's go to Python so I can show you how I built this application and we can build it together. Here in Python, I already created a virtual environment which have all the Python libraries that I'm gonna be utilizing for this project. I also have an environment file which has the credentials, the Google API key that we need if we want to use Gemini 1.5. I have a video that I already created in which I show how to create the API key. I'm gonna be leaving that video in the description below so you can follow it up. This file is just an example, but you just need to paste your credentials in the .env file here. Now let's proceed to create the application. So let's create a Python package where we will have our app.py. So let's do that now. And now let's proceed to import Streamlit, since this is the main library that we use to deploy our application. So let's do import Streamlit as st, and then let's define a function to create our application. As a first step, let's do st set page config, and here we will define this information that we have at the top, which is invoice extractor, and then this rocket. So let's do that now. Invoice. Then let's specify the title, the page, which is invoice extractor, with these two emojis here. These two. Let's copy the same ones so we can have the same exact application. And then now let's create this filling box in which the user can send questions to the model. So let's call it user question equal to st text input, and here let's put input prompt, specify as a key input. Now let's proceed with the sidebar, which is this information that we have here. Let's add as a title of the sidebar invoice image. Here we can do st.sidebar.title. Here we can specify invoice image, and then let's specify this information of the sidebar that we have here. So let's do choose an image. For this, let's do uploaded file, st.fileuploader. Let's specify choose an image, and now let's specify the format type so the user knows in which file formats file can be uploaded. And now let's do if the file uploaded is not none. Let's proceed to open this image, and this image I want to render it in the main area of the page. So let's do st.image, and here we'll do image. Let's also specify a caption, uploaded image, and also the column width. Here you can see all this information. Here you see that the image is rendered in the main area of the page, and we also have this caption. So this is what we just created. Now let's specify a prompt for our large language model. Let's create another file so we don't have it here, and this file looks a bit more organized and it's easier to read. So let's create this prompt. Let's call it deft load prompt, in which we specify to the large language model that it's a financial advisor with an expertise in understanding invoices. Also, let's specify to the prompt, if you don't know the answer, please refrain from speculating. Okay, so let's load this prompt in our app so we can provide instructions to the large language model to load prompt. And here let's import the prompt that we just created. And now we can proceed to create a new function that will generate the responses of the large language model based on the prompt, the user question, and the image that the user uploads. So let's go back to the utils.py, and here let's generate this function. Let's call it generate response LLM. And we will need to import a couple of libraries in order to use this function. So let's import them now. Let's do import OS. Also, let's import Google.generative.ai as GenAI. And from .env, import load.env. So we will load all the credentials now. Let's load Google API key. And we also need to configure our credentials in GenAI. So let's do GenAI.configure. And here we'll need to specify the API key. Now, let's proceed to create the model. So let's do model GenAI.generative model. Here, let's specify the model that we will be using now, which is Gemini 1.5. Now, let's create the response. So for this, let's use model.generateContent. And here we need to provide the prompt, the user question, and the image. So let's do input question, prompt, and image. We will need to specify these parameters when we want to use this function. And now let's return the response. Response.text. Okay, let's go back to the app and let's specify the button. And here we have it as send. So in this button, we'll specify that if the user clicks on this button, it will start generating a response. So let's do it. Specify if st button, which is in the main area of the page. Well, here it says submit, but let's call it send as we have in the page. And then let's specify a spinner, which will say start processing. So this message will appear while the model is processing all the information. And then let's do response equal to get, well, basically the function that we created earlier, which is generate response LLM. And here we will need to specify these three arguments. So we have the input question, which is the user question, basically, the image that the user uploads, which we called image, and then the prompt that we loaded earlier. And now let's also specify a subheader that will say response. Let me show you the subheader here. This is the subheader that we have. And then let's write the response that the model generates. And now let's see how the application looks like. So let's do if name equal main, so main, and then let's run Streamlit run, and then app.py. Let's see if this works. Here we can see that the application was built, and if we click on it, it says that no module name src. Let me remove src from here. And then let's refresh the page. Let's load it again and see if everything works as expected. This part, let's change it also because we had it earlier in the sidebar. So let's go back to the code. So it should be here, st file uploader. We'll need to do sidebar also. And by just making this small change, let's refresh the page and we can see that it should be here. Nice. Let's upload an image. Another invoice. Let's go with the second one. And let's ask a different question. Let's ask the invoice date. Here we can check the invoice date. that it was in 2015. Let's see if it's producing the response accurately. So as you can see, it's working as expected, which is amazing. Let's ask a different question, such as the invoice number, which we have here, 2015-008. Let's see this one now. Let's click on send. And as you can see, the information is being processed really fast. Let's go with a different file. Here, this one is in Spanish. Let's see if the model is also able to generate an accurate response in a different language. Let's check what's the total amount of the invoice. Let's see if it's able to reply 199. Let's see. Wow, this is amazing. This is working perfectly. Let's also ask, let's go back to the first image. Let's ask the information of the vendor. Parse the name of the vendor. Let's see if it's able to do that. It should be local store here. Wow, it's amazing. It's given the information of the name of the vendor and also the address, which is amazing. As you could see, this invoice extractor application is impressive. You're able to send images to the large language model, and then this one is responding accurately. It's processing images and text at the same time. And that's it for today. If you have any kind of questions, please leave them in the comment section below. Also, I'm gonna keep uploading videos on a weekly basis, so don't forget to turn on the notification bell, subscribe to the channel because it helps me to create more content, and hit the like button below. See you next time.